So in today's video, I want to share with you guys a menu planning trick that has completely revolutionized is almost too dramatic of a word. I don't like using that. I want to be careful with word choices. We kind of throw words around in our culture today, but has really transformed our food budget as well as just making things a lot simpler. So you're probably familiar with the very traditional form of menu planning. And for most people, what menu planning looks like is either once a month or once a week. You're sitting down and kind of taking all of your family's favorite recipes and then making a plan for them on we're going to eat this one on this night and this one on this night, and then going through those recipes and making a grocery list from the recipes, right? So then you're going out and you're shopping via the list. Now, obviously, if this is working for you, I am in no means telling you need to change your menu planning. I'm simply sharing something that has really helped our family, and so I want to share it with your families. So, traditionally, what you would do is that would normally save you money at the grocery store versus just kind of haphazardly getting whatever and not planning and all of those kind of things. Usually it does help with budgeting and it helps you know what you're having for dinner. So it is a great thing. If you are doing that, awesome, way to go. You are like a bajillion steps ahead of most of the culture. But what we have really been doing recently, and I would say mostly the last year that I have been really intentional with this, is that on Sunday evenings, I sit down and I use my planner. So right now, my planner, I just have one of these from Hobby Lobby. And you use whatever you want. You could use a meal planning sheet. You could even just write Monday through Sunday or whatever, however you're working, whatever night you're sitting down that following week or month or however you want to work it. You sit down and you have your dates written. I like to do it in my planner because then I work off of this all week long. So I have my one side that's got my top 3 things, my goals, all that different planning, different thing. But this has each day of the week. There's a block. And so in the space that's next to it, I write what we're going to have. But the way that I determine that is not just simply what do we feel like having. So I'm considering, because of the way that we shop, so this works well if you are bulk buying and have a garden, have preserved any food, or are participating in a CSA or with farmers markets. This method works really well because we have pantry staples, we have things in our CSA that we get twice. Right now in this season, we get every other week, we get something from our CSA. And then I know what meat, because we're buying our meat in bulk, I know what we have on hand. So what I'm doing when I'm making my menu plan is I keep a lot of our staples that go into most recipes, right? So we have our grains, I keep the condiments that we use on a regular basis, cheese and butter and milk and those kind of things I try to keep on hand. And then of course, we've got our tomato sauces and diced tomatoes and salsas and things that I know that our family uses, beans, lentils, those kind of things. So when I have those on hand, then my grocery shopping most of the time is really just restocking our staples. It is rare, though it does happen for things like holidays or special occasions, that I'm actually just picking a recipe and oh gosh, I gotta go buy the stuff for that recipe. Most of the time, I have what we need. And so the way that I'm making my meal plan is that I'm thinking through what do we have that we need to use. So I have some basics that we stick to every week. Like Tuesdays, we have Taco Tuesdays. Friday nights, Chris cooks. My husband cooks every Friday. It helps him to decompress from the week and to get us into the weekend. So I actually don't worry about the menu plan on Friday nights. Saturday nights is our date night, and so we eat out on Saturdays. And then Sunday nights, we like to keep very simple because we're coming off of our Sabbath. We take a Sabbath from Saturday evening to Sunday evening, and we go out Saturday night and usually Sunday for lunch. We do something small. And so Sunday night, I don't want a ton of dishes. I don't want to have anything that I'm preparing coming off of Sabbath, because that's actually the time I usually come up to my office and I do the meal plan for the week, and I plan the rest of my week, and I get some, things caught up in my office time. And so I don't want to have to be worried about preparing a big dinner. So we do a charcuterie and cheese board on Sunday nights. It's easy peasy, same every week. Now we alternate what charcuterie is on there. We alternate what cheeses are on there based on what we have on hand. And we alternate, the whatever fermented veggies we happen to have available, or fruits and that kind of thing. We usually always have honey and then crackers or something as well goes on that. So we have 4 nights that are pretty much, for me, when I sit down to plan every week, are pretty similar. So now tacos are going to look different. I think about, okay, where am I at in my cycle? I like to use that because different meats I tend to like at different parts of my cycle. So sometimes I'll consider that. But frequently it's, okay, what do we have? Do we have chicken available that needs to be used up, turkey or pork or beef or lamb? What do we have? Do we have fish on hand that we want to use? And so I think about that. And then once I have the meat planned, then I know what beans usually will go well. Do I want black beans or do I want pinto beans? Do I want refried beans? And then of course our rice is pretty standard on those nights. And I know if I need to make some tortillas or if we're going to use crunchy taco shells. That's simple. Those are really the only choices I'm making with Taco Tuesday. And so I know we always have taco shells on hand. I have stuff to make tortillas on hand. Sometimes I do have to run out and get taco shells if I haven't been paying attention to my inventory. But these are staples that I know we're going to use. We're not buying a bunch of random ingredients that are going to get used for one recipe and then we have it sitting on our shelf and we don't ever use it again. We are buying things that we are rotating through constantly, which really helps. And most of the time we're buying them in bulk. So then I only have Mondays and Wednesdays and Thursdays that need to be planned. So I look and see, is this a week that we are extending hospitality? Do we have neighbors or friends coming over for dinner? And if so, then that's something that I want to make sure that I'm cognizant of any food allergies or sensitivities or dietary preferences of the people we're inviting over. And those are times sometimes when I will end up making a grocery list from the recipe. But normally I'm what you call a dump cook in a lot of ways, but you don't have to be a dump cook to do this. So the dump cook is kind of, what do I have? Let's dump it all in. I know what flavors go well. If you are a beginner in the kitchen, then you may not have that skill yet. And you may be like, I need a recipe. Totally fine. What are the recipes you use on a regular basis? And instead of trying to always do something new, can you have a chunk of those that you use on a regular basis and you stock the things in your pantry and from the grocery store? So you know you always have those things on hand that way, and you're not constantly having to make a list and go buy things just for that recipe. You know, hey, I've got the stuff to throw together spaghetti tonight. I've got the stuff to throw together, a pizza last minute. I might even have a frozen pizza in the freezer because I've done that. Because I've done that work ahead of time. And so there's things I usually try to incorporate one convenience meal a week too, which means I got tacos, convenience meal, hubby cooks, date night, charcuterie. That's 5 nights out of the week that are taken care of. It makes menu planning so much simpler, and also it's super budget friendly when you are buying in bulk and using that and menu planning from your own store. So what's in your freezer, what's in your fridge, what's in your pantry, make it work. And if you're missing an ingredient, is there a substitute that you happen to have on hand already that you can make it work and you don't have to go run to get that one thing? Now, sometimes the one thing is crucial, but a lot of times you can make it work. We got kumquats in our CSA last time. I've never had kumquats before, didn't know what to do with them, but I made a kumquat chicken recipe that actually the gal who runs our CSA had shared with us, and I made that recipe last night. Well, it called for Szechuan pepper. You know how often we use Szechuan pepper? I cook all the time. I've never once had a recipe that calls for Szechuan pepper before. And so the reality is I could go find it and hunt it down and buy something that's probably really expensive because it's one of those ethnic ingredients that you like hardly ever use. Or I can make it work. It also called for hoisin sauce. Though we do use hoisin sauce on a semi-regular basis in one of my other recipes, I like to make a honey garlic chicken. You can also make your own. So I used what we had. We had a fermented chili paste on hand, some molasses and soy sauce. There was our hoisin. And I did just a quick, online search and what are good substitutes? Okay, think about those flavors. Okay, let's put those together. Szechuan pepper, I was able to use black pepper and then lemon essential oil because it called for lemon zest, and some coriander essential oil, called for ground coriander. But those three things, it worked great. The recipe was fantastic. So I encourage you to work with what you have in your pantry, work with what you have in your fridge and your freezer, and see if you can't make your menu plans around your food stores so that you can start purchasing very intentionally on the food you're eating on a regular basis. That way it's easy for you to expand your food stores. It's easier on your budget. You're not feeling those trips to the grocery store as much. And also, the less you go to the grocery store, usually the less you spend. Because each trip you're like, oh, I want this. Oh, let's add this thing on. Let's add this thing on. If you can kind of narrow that down, that's really helpful. If you're not yet purchasing in bulk, Azure Standard is one of our favorite companies to support. It's a family-owned co-op that delivers all around the country. And so we purchase once a month. I actually have my pickup from them tomorrow. And then we also participate in local CSAs. But I'll drop my referral link for Azure Standard down below if that's something that interests you. And as always, if you have any questions about the content shared here, be sure to pop them down in the comments below or reach out to me via any of my social channels, and I would be happy to chat with you further. Until next time, take care, friends. Cheers.